Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 4, Stress Management. This is the Women Empowered put on by Border States Electric, their Power of Wellness, brought to you by Dr. Jackie Leone with Veritas Medical Solutions. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about stress, the big one. It's the cause of about 80 to 90% of major illness, and one of the number one things that we're addicted to in our culture over here in the United States. So let's get started. Stress management. Are you addicted to being busy? And how does that affect your health? What can you do about it? So I like this little meme down in the bottom right corner. Good morning, let the stress begin, because that's how a lot of us feel. So first let's define stress. Well, a straightforward definition states that stress is a state of mental or emotional strain, difficulties that cause worry or emotional tension. Now that's a general description of stress. However, there are two types of stress that we'll get into, good stress and bad stress. There are air quotes around good and bad because it's all in how you perceive it, right? Little zebra losing his stripes because he thinks he's stressed. So physiological or biological stress is an organism's response to a stressor, such as an environmental condition or a stimulus. Stress is a body's method of reacting to a challenge. So according to the stressful event, the body's way to respond to stress is by sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system that we've talked about in the past. That gets activated, and then that results in that kind of response. And so, our blood vessels are dilating, sending blood to our limbs, our feet, and our hands, ready to either run using our legs and feet or fight using our hands. Our pupils dilate to allow more light in. Our senses become higher and more sensitive, so we're able to take in more information about our environment. So in humans, stress can typically describe a negative condition or even a positive condition that can have an impact on a person's mental and physical well-being. Positive conditions we'll talk about next. Positive versus negative stress. Positive stress is known as eustress. Eustress is defined as challenges and responsibilities that give us a sense of thrill and excitement. So a positive stress could be skydiving. It could be accomplishing something at work. It could be being intimate with your partner. Eustress is a healthy kind of stress because it motivates and inspires us in our daily activity and work. So as a result, it gives us positive feelings of fulfillment and enthusiasm. So again, some of those examples you can see: exercising. It's a great form of eustress. It adds slight stress to the body in order to push it past its comfort zone to build strength, flexibility, and cardiovascular health. New projects at work that excite us, maybe a promotion, gathering with family, planning the holidays. We know that that's stressful, but it's a fulfilling type of stress in most cases anyway. So let's talk about distress or negative stress. Distress is defined as experiences that cause implications such as anxiety, fatigue, depression, unhappiness, and other illnesses. So negative stress is a kind of stress that can break a person's potential success and fulfillment in life. It's one of the main deterrents of health and happiness, and that's because it's putting a negative strain on the body. The body has to compensate in a lot of different ways when we experience stress, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. So here you can see levels of stress: positive, tolerable, and toxic. Positive stress are brief increases in heart rate, mild elevations in stress hormones. This is something that helps us get through the day. The positive stress of getting excited that somebody is getting married or having a baby. Tolerable stress can be serious, but it's often temporary stress responses, and it's buffered by supportive relationships. So tolerable stress is like a stressful day at work. You are under deadline, you have a lot to do and not enough time to do it. And then you get home and your family and your friends and people who support you, aka the supportive relationships, are helping buffer that type of stress on the body. And so you're balancing bad stress with good stress. Good stress, the bonding of the relationship, the act of venting at the end of the day. Then that brings us to toxic stress. So toxic stress is prolonged activation of stress response systems and the absence of protective relationships. So if you don't have a family or friends to go to at the end of the night, or your family and friends add to the problem on top of a stressful job, if you don't have a happy, healthy outlet, to be able to fulfill you in some sort of way, whether it be physical exercise or creative hobby, something along those lines, that protection or those protective relationships being absent creates an accumulative effect of the stress, and that's what leads it to being toxic. So, stress in the body. The body doesn't distinguish between physical and psychological threats, okay? It kind of all sees it all as the same thing. So, when you're stressed over a busy schedule, an argument with a friend, being caught in traffic, finances, your body reacts just as strongly as if you were facing a life or death situation. So, the way that our system is built for the fight or flight is we basically, the way that we evolved would have to fight or flight when it came to living in the wild, right? When we were caveman, Paleolithic. So when we were threatened by a lion, let's say, our body would have to turn on fight or flight. Is this worth fighting? Or do we run and hide and save our family and our life, right? And so limbically, what this is basically saying is when your boss or your significant other or your child comes to you with a major problem, a deadline, something, a problem that you can't fix, and it stresses you out, some sort of feedback, and you feel a personal attack, the way in which our body responds physiologically, the hormones in which we release, and the way that it triggers our nervous system is exactly the same as if we were being threatened by that lion. Okay, so the body can't see the difference. So if you have a lot of responsibilities and worries, your emergency stress response may be on most, if not all the time. So the more your body's stress system is activated, the harder it is to shut off. And the harder it is to shut off, the less likely you're in parasympathetic, or the part of the nervous system that allows you to rest and digest, aka absorb nutrients from your diet, the digest aspect, in the rest, being able to process and heal damage to tissues, to metabolize all of those stress hormones that pump through our body, to be able to work through our problems on a subconscious level, in really good quality sleep. We're supposed to dream for those reasons. So when we don't rest and digest, we're too focused in the fight or flight or sympathetic response. That's what causes disease. That is how stress leads to illness. It's actually the number one killer in America, it's proposed. So long-term exposure to stress can lead to serious health problems. Very chronic stress disrupts nearly every system in your body. So you can see here is a significant list of all the systems that stress affects and how. So cardiovascularly, it's going to raise our blood pressure, right? Who here has high blood pressure or knows somebody who does? Probably a lot of us. It will suppress the immune system. The immune system is the number one way in which we protect ourselves from external from external problems, bacterium, viruses, all of those things, the environment in which we live, right? That's how we fight things off. So by suppressing the immune system, if you get sick really often, if you're out of work every month for at least a day with some sort of cold or allergies or fatigue, it could be because you're under too much stress. It increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. It contributes to infertility by messing with the balance of certain reproductive hormones and organs. It can speed up the aging process, which is known as our integumentary system, which is our hair, skin, and nails. It thins hair. It prevents collagen production in skin, more fine lines and wrinkles. Our body is unable to fight oxidative stress or dark sunspots, if you will. Things like that all occur. And long-term stress can even rewire the brain, and so it shifts our nervous system and the way in which our brain communicates with our other parts of our body, the way that it creates thought processes, and the way that it connects or anchors different information. So lastly, and we already talked about this a little bit, it can inhibit digestion and increase inflammation because we're no longer in our rest and digest. We're unable to do those things, and so we're constantly living in the fight or flight. It inhibits our ability to digest. So if you have constipation, diarrhea, bloating, irregular bowel movements, these are all things to consider and really take a hard look at. Is my stress cup too full and I'm not working on doing things to empty it out or pay myself back and live in that rest and digest system enough? Is there balance there? So here are some signals of too much stress, or if you are out of balance. So watch out for the following signs from your body. If you have the inability to concentrate or complete tasks, you get consistent and chronic infections or cold like we just discussed, if you have insomnia or trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, chronic or autoimmune disease flare-ups, inflammation, rashes, all those signs, if you have body aches and pains, headaches or migraines, irritability or other mood issues, changes in appetite, either eating too much or too little, or if you're quick to emotional states, heightened emotional states like anger or anxiety, that lets us know that you have unprocessed stress. And so you have very little tolerance for any external stimuli because it just triggers you right away. So if you look at the little cartoon in the bottom right corner, it's pretty cute and says it really states it really well. I'm finally learning how to relax. Unfortunately, relaxation makes me tense, which is the case for a lot of us because when we do finally set that time aside to relax and let go, our mind is still on that loop. Our mind is still thinking of our to-do list of all the things that we have to do, right? Air quotes, have to, because technically we don't have to do anything. These are all choices we're making. So if you go to relax and relaxation is making you more tense, chances are you haven't really developed that skill of putting yourself in parasympathetic, and that's fine. I mean, that's very common, but it's just a sign for yourself to know, hey, just like I can exercise a muscle and it can get stronger, I can exercise this tool of creating parasympathetic or rest and digest space for myself to undo the damage that too much stress in the rest of my day has created. So here are some warning signs to consider. Take the time to read through. Feel free to pause because I'll just be stopping here briefly. Cognitive or brain, poor judgment, seeing only the negative, if you're constantly worrying, emotional things, overwhelmed, moodiness, depression, physical symptoms, diarrhea, constipation, the aches and pains, the loss of sex drive, frequent colds and infections, and then finally behavioral symptoms, eating less, eating more, sleeping too much, too little, being isolated, depending on instant gratifiers like alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, all of those things to relax. It's definitely a sign, a warning sign that your body is under too much stress. So this week's exercise is the stress inventory. So I want you to take a moment, and feel free to pause this, to fill out the Holmes-Rahe stress inventory and then calculate your score. So we can see what that looks like. I will pull that up here. This is another handout we'll be going through. Let's see. And this is another handout. Please excuse all of the things. Here we go. So this is what we're looking at right now. So the social readjustment rating scale. So what you do is you go through, you have the life event, the death of a spouse. If anybody has had that, anything in the last 12 months that you see on this list, I want you to circle those points. If you've gone through divorce, let's go down. If you've had gaining a new family member, there's been a birth and adoption, son or daughter moving home, a parent moving home, death of a close friend, spouse beginning or ceasing work, if somebody got fired in the household, major changes in working hours or conditions, did you get a promotion, things like that are going to be affected. So then you just circle the score that's associated, let's say, and at the end you want to total your score and then look at where you fall. So 150 points or less means you're relatively low amount of stress, and that's great, right? It's not going to lead to a health breakdown. Still something to consider if you're relatively close to the 150, because that is kind of a borderline, but anything significantly less, then you're doing a pretty great job. It shows so far in the last year. Now, a lot of people in the class were wondering, okay, well, the last year hasn't been bad, but what about the last 3 years or 5 years? So feel free to do this inventory for any year or subset of time that you feel like it's most applicable for you to be able to see, this is where I was 5 years ago, then 3 years ago, and then this past year. And you can see if your stress is getting worse, getting better, or maintaining the same. So that's going to be a great inventory for you to understand a little bit more about where you are in terms of stress. So at 150 to about 300 points, it implies about 50% chance of a major health breakdown in the next 2 years. And I can give you a list. We're going to talk about a list of the most correlated stress and health issues. You have a full detailed list, everything written down in detail, so that's great for you to have. And that's what that means. So it implies a 50% chance of one of those health breakdowns in the next 2 years. 300 or more points raises the odds by about 80% according to this statistical prediction model. Okay, so there's no hard and fast rule here. I've known people who have had more than 300 points and have not suffered a major health breakdown, but they are close or they feel like they're about to, in the next few months to years. So this is just for you to kind of see where you are currently and a little bit of an inventory to see where you've been. Like I said, if you do choose to go back into the years and fill it out for not just this year, but the years prior. So after you get that reflection and you've done that exercise, let's go back to the slideshow. How do you feel about your score? That's something that you need to reflect on. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Can you really objectively see on paper now how saying, oh, I'm not that stressed, and then seeing a score of maybe 180, wow, I'm more stressed than I thought. So is there dissonance there? Does it feel like you can't really make sense of this isn't how I feel, even though on paper this is what this looks like? Can you reconcile that score with how you currently feel? And did you know you were at this stress level? A lot of times we're not really aware. We're just kind of on this treadmill of getting things done the way we need to. And before you know it, we're like, wow, I feel like crap and I can't get up in the morning and I'm not happy and XYZ in my life. And a lot of times it's just because we need a break. We just need to relax. We're just a little too stressed out. So that brings me to the next statement. Well, what do you plan on doing with this information? So this is the important part. If you know that you're stressed out, what can you do? Well, there are a few behaviors to really focus on avoiding. So the first is instant gratifiers. We really want to get rid of cigarettes, caffeine, alcohol, snack foods high in sugar, trans fat, all these empty calories, because that actually ends up making the body worse. It creates a more toxic environment, which adds more inflammation and stress to the body. And it actually impedes our ability to reach that eustress or that positive stress level, and it impedes the body's ability to get into that rest and digest state. So, like I said, these will all make things worse in the long term, and even if they appear to have some kind of temporary relief, it's just creating an aggregate negative effect, moving us closer to the disease state. So I think it's really important here to pause and take a moment to not blame yourself if you don't reach all your goals when you're avoiding or removing things, or you're creating a new plan to create new habits in your life, because you're only human and there's always another day and another opportunity. So just because you had the donut for breakfast instead of the oatmeal doesn't mean you can't choose the salad at lunch instead of the pizza. Right? So there's always a new opportunity around the corner to be better to yourself. So just be gentle. If you don't reach a goal, accept that for that day and that time and move forward to a goal you can accomplish, and definitely give yourself a high five when you do it, because lifestyle change and long-standing habit change is really hard. But if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you, right? So here are some techniques on how to de-stress. First, let's start by deep breathing. It's free, you can do it anywhere, and it's not problematic at all. It doesn't cost things. There's really almost no excuse for why we can't deep breathe. So when you breathe deeply, it actually sends a message to your brain to calm down and relax. Then the brain sends that message to your body. And things that happen when you're stressed, like your increased heart rate, faster breathing, increased blood pressure, they all go down as you breathe deeply to relax, and more oxygen and nutrient-rich blood is getting to your tissues to help fight inflammation, to help create more rest and digest. Deep breathing is a great tool, and they have tons of exercises online, especially YouTube, totally free of charge, from 2-minute breathing exercises to 2-hour breathing exercises and everything in between. So I definitely support this one. It's fast, it's easy, it's free. You can do it wherever you are. The next is exercise. Exercise in whatever form is useful for stress relief and for aiding and relaxation. So walking and swimming, yoga, they're very gentle. They can help get you into the rest and digest stage, / the eustress stage. If you push it, hard enough, you can actually move from relaxation, like swimming or yoga, into the happy stress state, which is pushing yourself to your limits, but it's for a good reason, right? It's to release and metabolize any of that trapped stress that you've accumulated. So regular exercise reduces your level of stress. It also helps you stay fit and helps you prevent heart disease. And heart disease, again, is very strongly linked to stress. So moving on, sleep. Sleep reduces stress. And with that, people can have better control of their blood pressure. And sleep is one of the best remedies overall for also processing your subconscious issues and problems. Dreams are our mind's way of working out solutions, of trying different outcomes, different approaches to see which one feels right and which one doesn't. Okay, so when we're not dreaming, we're not resting in a sense of being able to process our brain stress, our mental fatigue, right? So we really want to focus on 8 hours of sleep a night. Between 7 and 9 is fine, but as close to 8 as you can get would be great. Next is talking it out. So talking about the issues and problems that are causing you to become stressed is a very healthy and effective way of channeling your emotions and promoting a much more positive outlook through a network of support and understanding. So you get reflection, you get to vent, you feel closer to the people around you, you build onto your relationships by being more vulnerable. So support really helps treat feelings of isolation, disconnection, and reclusion. So that lowers stress and improves mood, and it helps dissipate things like anxiety and depression by creating more connection. So talking it out can also equal journaling, which is self-support. So if you don't have somebody right away that you can discuss issues with, if you create a journal, whether it's handwriting, a video journal, a blog, a video blog, like a vlog, whatever the case is, there are always options for you to get it up and out. But the important thing is to release it. Focus on the out, whether it's talking it out, writing it out, creating it out, exercising it out. It has to move through and out of the body. Okay, that's the way that stress works. It comes up, we process it, it goes out. So for our weekly activity, this is a 3-minute relaxation. I want everybody to copy and paste that link into their YouTube. And I can play for you. Sorry, I'm uploading another Wii for everybody, but I can play for you the first few seconds.
I give myself an opportunity to sit down quietly from the do in my mind. Making the time to unwind, where there's no feeling of rush. I sit back, becoming quiet. The body begins to loosen up, relaxing from the top of the head through the neck, shoulders, back, right through into my legs, to the very tips of the toes. And with every breath in, I feel more and more relaxed. Connecting with the quiet and the breathing space. I begin to draw tranquility and calm from the very core of my being. Letting myself settle into a feeling of calm. calmly enjoying this experience. I allow feelings of tranquil calm to flow through my thoughts. Creating a buffer all around me. Undisturbed by the people and situations around me. I return feeling relaxed and calm.
Okay, so I know I said we'd listen to the first few seconds, but I figured since it's only 3 minutes, let's all enjoy it together, right? Might as well practice what I preach here. So, back to the presentation. These are all different things you can see visually that can help with stress, this top 20 alternative approaches, and then how you can manage your stress. And hopefully after that 3-minute video, you get a little taste of what YouTube has to offer, and again, how quick and easy and free it is, and how much it really does help you relax. I know I feel much more relaxed. So balance and navigation. It's really important to take charge of your thoughts and your emotions, your schedule, your environment, and the way that you deal with problems. So I think a lot of people, unfortunately, have created this victim kind of mentality in, hey, we all do it sometimes. It's totally human, totally natural, I understand that. But at the same time, there has to be a line drawn to where we take responsibility for our own thoughts and for our feelings and how much we book in our schedule and what we agree to live with in terms of our environment. Like, we live, a lot of people say since I moved to Arizona, I've had all of these health issues. Well, that's our environment. And I know people's jobs are here and livelihood, and I understand that. So it's like taking responsibility. Okay, I know this environment isn't good for me, so I can either choose to move and find another job and be healthy, or I can just work extra hard to undo the toll that my environment's taking on me with air filters and humidifiers and getting out into the open air as often as possible. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to this hopeless victim place of, well, I can't help it. That's just my circumstance. But technically, when we really objectively take a step back, you can help it. You can get a new job and move. We can do things to undo our environmental toxic load. So that's just an example, but that translates across the board to the way that we think, to our emotional state, to how busy we become. All of those things are within our control, right? It's not his fault or her fault for saying or doing something that's inherently them, right? It's our responsibility to modulate how we process. We're totally allowed to have organic feelings and thoughts, but how we choose to act upon them, that's what we can control. Okay, that's the important part. Stress management involves changing the stressful situation when you can, changing reaction when you can't, taking care of yourself, and making time for rest and relaxation. So it's all about staying zen, staying in the eye of the hurricane, staying zen through the turmoil, right? And here you can see functional stress. We have boredom and excess stress, and then right in the middle, that sweet spot of functional. And up here, we have our performance, right? Or our quality of life. Oh, excuse me. So right here, if we're bored and stagnant and we're not challenging ourselves and we're just the same old, kind of on that hamster wheel, then we're increasing the risk of our health by being bored and being stagnant. Just like still water grows bacteria, so do still people, right? Things in motion tend to stay in motion. Things at rest stay at rest. So this is the same with our physical and mental body. Now moving in the opposite direction, if we have excess stress here, you can see that it moves toward increasing the risk of ill health as well, because then our body is stressing out and causing damage at a faster rate than our body can heal it or address it. And so right here in the middle, give or take, we have this nice little balanced area of rest and relaxation and healthy, happy stress, or supportive processes to help undo negative stress. And this is kind of where we want to shoot for, is right here. We want to increase our health, prevent future illness, and make our twilight years as enjoyable as possible. So the 4 A's are here to help as well, right? So avoid, alter, adapt, accept. Okay, first and foremost, avoid unnecessary stress. Not all stress can be avoided, but by learning how to say no, distinguishing between your shoulds and your musts on your to-do list, and steering clear of people or situations that stress you out, you can eliminate many daily stressors. So if you know a certain route to work tends to have higher traffic, even though it is a more direct route, maybe try the slightly longer route that's less trafficy. Who knows? Maybe you'll get there in the same time, and you'll definitely get there in a better mind state and quality in terms of your physical body and your stress level, right? So that certain person at work or in the family that tends to be problematic, not working yourself into, a ditch trying to avoid them or anything, but really trying to avoid interactions if you can and when possible, just to prevent that triggering of that negative stress or distress. Next, we have alter the situation. So if you can't really avoid a stressful situation, then it's my suggestion that you attempt to alter it. So be more assertive and deal with problems head on. By bottling up our feelings, we only increase the level of stress. So in terms of our body, it's recirculating. Nothing is coming up and out. We're not speaking our truth. We're not feeling our feelings. We're not metabolizing these stress hormones with our workouts. Everything is kind of that toxic emotion or feeling or hormone is just recirculating, causing problems. So by being more assertive and dealing with our problems head on, we can ideally alter situations. We need to be more willing to compromise and try meeting others halfway on certain issues. Because if we can't avoid the issue, we need to alter or work to try to alter the problem. Now, if neither of those are working, then we can potentially adapt to the stressor. So when you can't change that stressor and you can't alter it or avoid it, maybe try changing ourselves or how we approach it, right? So let's reframe problems or focus on positive things. So hey, that one argumentative family member is going to be there for Christmas, so we can't avoid it. We can't alter the situation, right, by saying let's have Christmas halftime here and halftime there so I can avoid him or her. So if avoiding an alter doesn't work, we can adapt us though. So we can adapt the way in which we're going to perceive that person's actions if they try to pick fights, kind of breathing through it, not letting it affect us, understanding that they are where they are on their journey and they're probably unhappy and stressed out themselves and feel the need to project onto others. So if a task at work or like this family situation, something else you can think of, has you stressed out, trying to focus on the aspects of your job or that person that you do enjoy could definitely help reframe your body and refocus your body into that parasympathetic state. Always look at the big picture. Is it really worth worrying about? Is this topic or issue that is causing you so much stress, is it worth it? Is it worth your health and well-being? Is it worth your mental and emotional balance? Is it worth your physical health? Because if it's not, then I really suggest you let go. Because it's probably never going to change. So if it can't change and it can't be avoided, then all we can do is adapt the way that we approach it and the way that we address it. Last of the A's is accept. We really need to be able to come to terms with things we can't change. And I know this is all easier said than done, and it takes practice. Again, just like working out a muscle to get stronger, this skill set and these new positive habits will get stronger the more you apply them. So there'll always be stressors in life. That's unavoidable, right? Can't do anything about them. But if we learn to accept them and accept the fact that that is inevitable, that stress will happen, rather than rail against a situation, making it even more stressful by resisting, right? Then we can look at the upside of the situation. And then even the most stressful circumstances can be an opportunity to learn about yourself or about others, right? So there's definitely a grain of truth with what you resist continues to persist. AKA, if you're resisting a problem, you're not accepting it, you're not seeing the reflection or the growth or the positive lesson in that issue, chances are it will recirculate. The pattern will reemerge. You'll end up having that same annoying coworker or that same you know, annoying boss, or you'll date the same person over and over again. Well, not technically the same person, but the same type of scenarios. The nature of the interaction or the stressor will continue because there's a lesson there to have to accept and learn and work through, right? And so if we can't avoid it, ideally we can alter it. If we can't alter it, let's adapt ourselves and our perceptions of it. And if all else fails, work to accept. Breathe, accept, and let go. Because again, the bottom line, is this something to worry about? Is this worth giving up my mental and physical health for? So here's a quick stress relief. The best way to reduce stress quickly and reliably is by using your senses. So what you see, what you hear, smell, taste, and what you touch are all important. So if you know you're going to have a stressful day, or you want some quick, easy shortcuts to create 30 seconds, 5 minutes of clean, rest and digest kind of space within your day, bring photos of your loved ones, photos of your pets, anything that helps you feel happy and light. That's a great trigger visually. For those of you who do the essential oils, that's a great way to relax. Having a specific scent that helps relaxation, like lavender or chamomile, those are going to be great for you to be able to take a deep breath and relax. Listening to a favorite piece of music, especially classical music or music that in general just puts you in that state, right? We listen to exciting, upbeat music when we want to increase energy. So if we want to create a peaceful state and release stress, then maybe it's a hard and fast dance till, my heart's pounding out of my stress or my chest, excuse me. And that's how you release stress. Or it's maybe classical, slow, a slower melody that feels helpful and relaxing. That's really the goal there. Tasting a piece of fruit or even a mint. So mint is very refreshing. Peppermint, spearmint, fresh mint. Ideally not sugar, mint candies, as close to the real thing as possible. But if all you have is a cert on hand or Tic Tac, then that's fine too. It's definitely a lot more refreshing than sitting there stewing about the stress. Also, eating a piece of fruit, we get the fiber, we get the refreshing water, the sweetness of the fruit. All of that is going to help increase mood. Hugging a pet or a loved one is another one. Physical touch is so important for our well-being and for us to release endorphins and feel safe. So physical touch, hugging, loving, cuddling, those are all great stress relievers as well. Nothing contributes more to chronic stress than emotional disconnection from ourselves and from our loved ones. Understanding the influence emotions have on your thoughts and actions is vital to managing stress. Life doesn't have to feel like a roller coaster ride with extremes ups and downs. I want to say that again. Life doesn't have to feel like a roller coaster ride with extreme ups and downs, okay? If it does, this is a product of our own choices. Because once we're aware that our emotions, even the painful ones, we normally try to avoid or bottle up, the easier it is to understand your own motivations. Stop doing things that you'll later regret, spreading ourselves too thin. We really need to focus on gaining renewed energy and smoothing out the ride. It can still be fun, but it doesn't have to be extreme. So here are some of your assignments and handouts. I hope everybody's keeping track of their daily life log that Gail made. It's a beautiful little booklet, so you can keep track of your foods and your water and things like that. The relaxation videos, that 3-minute video that we did earlier, and then I have a link if you want to check these 3 out. They're really great. I handpicked them myself, so I highly recommend doing them. And here are some more resources on stress. I have chosen to be happy because it's good for my health. I think that's a wonderful statement. So feel free to explore those. Then we have our stress diary here. I'm going to highlight that because I want to show you what that looks like. This is an amazing tool to be able to log your stress. So just try out for one day and see. Every time you're stressed out, whether it's you're late for work in the morning, you got cut off in traffic, you weren't prepared for a meeting, you didn't get all your tasks done, you had an argument with your colleague or your significant other, the time it happened, on a scale of 1 to 10, the intensity, 1 being low intensity, 10 being the maximum intensity, how long did that stress last you? What was the situation? Who was involved? Where did it happen? What were maybe some of the circumstances? Were there any triggering events? Something that happened before, like I was late for work, and so I had a stress response, an argument with a colleague when I got in for being late. The triggering event was being late, the situation and circumstance at work with a colleague browbeating me for being late, things like that. Okay, so what was your emotional reaction? How did you feel about that stressful event? Feeling words here: sad, mad, happy, frustrated, annoyed, all of those things. Okay, and then what action did you take to process it? Did you do an activity? Did you breathe? Did you exercise? Did you go grab a piece of chocolate? Did you excuse yourself to the bathroom and have a good cry? Did you eat a piece of pizza at lunch? What did you do to help address that stress? And then keep tabs of this. It can be more than one day, but even just a day can give you really great reflection on how many times you're stressed out, what the level of intensity, and then how you cope with your stress. And if you're not really a huge fan of this column and how you cope, then that's something to reflect on and hopefully work to use the 4 A's and all of those other lists that are included in the slideshow to help undo some of that negative stress. So, next on our assignments, if you choose to accept, are the practice the 4 A's and or the quick stress relief tool. So here is that quick stress relief tool of the picture, the scent, the fruit, things like that. But this is another great thing to look at. So 101 stress relievers. So if we just read through some of these, apologize for a mistake, ask for help, lie in a hammock. Ooh, that's a good one. Listen to the birds chirp. Sing a song. Write anything. Your fears, your dreams, any of that. Spend an evening without television. That's a great one. Learn to say no. Ugh, how many of us say yes way too many times, right? Eat an orange slowly, segment by segment. There's that piece of fruit again. Climb a mountain. Take a hike. Literally. So that's moving our body, dancing, crossword puzzles, anything that's going to help us relieve that and process that stressor event. So in that column on the stress diary that I was saying, if you're not a fan of how you deal with stress, eating foods that aren't good for you or doing things that only make the stress worse, then I highly suggest following this stress reliever list. Okay, that's there for you. And if you're like, well, what foods relieve stress? What can I do while I eat? And I believe this is on the handout list. These are some things that you can have around: nuts and seeds, fresh apples. I know that's a picture of an orange and it says lemon, but citrus in general can help reduce stress. Having a bag of cherries around, some bananas. These are some things you can eat for dinner or even have on your salad that day if it's an extra stressful day. So those were the 101 stress relievers for the handout we just discussed. Also those foods that help relieve stress. And then we have the 10 health problems related to stress that we talked about earlier. So this is super important. These are detailed descriptions of any of the issues that if you have currently, okay, are signs of stress. And when we did that stress inventory and it said a 50% chance of having a stressful health event or 80% higher level of having a stress event, these are the things that it's talking about triggering. So we have heart disease, asthma, obesity, excess weight, diabetes, headaches. Headaches and migraines are technically the same, or should be considered the same. Depression and anxiety, GI problems, okay, irritable bowel syndrome, acid reflux. Those are examples of GI problems. Then we have Alzheimer's disease, accelerated aging. You kind of look in the mirror one day and are like, I don't recognize that person. Chances are you've been under a lot of stress. So take a look at that. Also, premature death, 63% higher rate of death than people their age who are not caregivers. Caregivers of spouses and basically people looking after other ill people. That increases a lot of daily life stress. And so, it's definitely been correlated to premature death. So these are all things to seriously consider after you did your inventory to kind of see, okay, I have a 50% higher chance of developing what? Well, usually one of these 10. Also, that's not on the list, that's something to consider, is chronic infection, flu-like symptoms, allergies, all of those things. That's a sign of degradation to the immune system. So why don't we tack on that one at the end and pretend it says immune system malfunction, common consistent colds and flu symptoms and things. So that list is for you to review and maintain. So there you have it. You have your home assignments, your handouts for this week. It says week 1. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to fix that. Okay, great. So here are some links to things for you to review and read, and I hope you had a great lesson this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to email, call, or text Veritas Medical Solutions or Gail at Border States Electric. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and be on the lookout for the next class, week 5. Thanks so much. Have a great one.